Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Market Rant. My name is Joe Fahmy, alongside my co-host, Tom Canfield. How are you, Tom?
I'm good, Joe. Thanks. A little tired from a long week, but nice to have a 3-day weekend, eh?
Yeah, I love the three-day weekends. Good time to unwind, relax a little bit, get away from the markets.
Amen.
So let's just jump right in. I need your help.
Okay. Yeah.
I get so many emails from people, and I'm always grateful for these awesome emails, but a lot of the theme from them are people asking for what to do when you get into a trade. And what I mean by that is they have no problem buying. Let's say they buy a stock at $50. Where do I set my stop? Is it at 50? Do I set a stop at break even? Do I take some profits at 52? They're all questions that are very specific. But what the theme that I find is that I have trouble answering them because I can't. Everyone has different time frames,
Right.
and it's so hard to answer those questions. So I was just wondering if you could sort of, work off of this and help me with a way to answer, because it's a common question that I get.
Yeah. And you get a lot of people that want rules. I mean, like entries are very clean, they're very objective, right? It's like everybody, okay, but I know I'm buying it here, I know I'm buying it there, but all of a sudden you've got exits become insanely subjective.
Yes.
And they're different for all of us, different time horizons, different motives, different personalities. It's all different. So there is no clean answer to how do you get out? How do you sell? Because
Yeah.
and you and I are involved in the same stocks a lot of times, but you've
Yeah.
got a completely different time horizon than I do. And so where I'm taking little chunks along the way and just grabbing the explosions. I
Yeah.
did that as a swing trader. That's all I do as a day trader now. And you're able to sit in it.
Just
Whereas I can't do it. Like
just to give people a little context, just so they know, for new people on the
right.
pot, like you're a day trader, used to be a swing trader, more day trader, shorter term time
Correct.
frame. I'm more 2 to 3 days, 2 to 3 weeks, sometimes 2 to 3 months. So I'm more of a swing, longer term.
Right.
So it's so hard to answer those questions, because I think the bottom line is I want to help people. I genuinely want to try to give them the best answer I can, but there's no right or wrong answer.
Right. Part of it is you got to understand what you can handle. And you also have to understand what it is you're trying to get out of the market. Like people that are quote unquote investing and just sort of playing the market on the side and whatever, who are looking to hit home runs. That's totally different than a guy like me who's trading my own money and this is what I do full time. And I'm just trying to hitch a ride. So I see the market as just this source of income opportunities. And I'm just trying to take my little piece as many times as I can along the road and get out, because cash is the safest position for me. And so I get in, I get what I'm after, and then I get out because I got to pay bills with that stuff. And so I don't have the, number one, I don't have the patience to wade through, something surges and then it consolidates. Maybe it pulls back into your entry and all that. Can't do it. That's just me. Part of it messes with my confidence. I need a higher win ratio. I like consistency. I'm willing to give up the home run for just a shit ton of singles, because that's what keeps me in the game.
Right. And that's a great point. I'm not necessarily saying I'm going for the home run, because we've talked about this,
No.
how when people study the big winners and they see the Home Depots and McDonald's and Microsofts and Cisco's of the world go up to 20,000, 40,000%. Come on, like fuck off. You're not holding it for that long.
No.
Nobody is. But so
well, some of these guys are, and they fucking love to tell you about it too.
and they're also 70 years old, and their cost basis on Home Depots from 1904 or whatever. But anyways, right. My point is that I always say, simple question: how many stocks went up 100% last year? Off the top of your head, you probably can't even think of more. 3, 4, 5. But how many stocks?
Maybe 10.
Right? How many stocks went up 10 or 20% last year? And there's tons of them. In fact, some of the same stocks did that several times. Yes. So I'm with you on the singles and the doubles. It's still, even though we're on the same page with that, our time frames are still different. So if I'm buying a stock at 50 and I think it can go up 50 to 100% in 6 to 12 months, or even 20, 30% in a quarter, that's a different, I have to make that sacrifice. Yes. Meaning, if you buy a stock at 50 and you take your profits at 53 into a spike, God bless, you made your money.
Sold.
And you've defined that. You've defined
Yep.
yourself as a trader, where you might also say, oh, shoot, at the end of the day, let's say it goes to 58 and you're like, I could have made more.
Whatever.
But you're okay because you've defined that.
Well, and let's say we're both buying that same stock at 50 and we both see that it's got potential to go to 100. You're going to try and hold and stay in there and add as you go and all those things that you read in the books that are such good habits.
Right, which I'm so great at executing.
You're so flawless at all that shit.
Oh, just masterful.
I'm like the Mexican
Hashtag
jumping
sarcasm.
bean
I have to let people know I'm joking, but go ahead.
Isn't that sad that we actually have to announce sarcasm now?
I will say this every single episode. The fact that we've been trading combined almost 50
people,
years.
get a sense of humor. Come on.
No, but like I really want to stress every episode. We've been trading so long. We still make mistakes. And if people don't think we do, you are an absolute idiot. If you think seasoned veterans don't make
might
mistakes.
tell you about a nice one that I did this week, but we'll see if it
fine.
If
I mean,
if
we
it
all have
shows
winners.
up
We all
later.
have winners too. But so go to your point.
Right.
You were both.
Well,
let's
my
start from,
point is like
we
if
both buy a stock at 50.
Right. It shoots from 50 to 54. Like, I'm out. Give me my money. That's a great trade for me.
Okay.
In the short run, but that stock stays on my list, and I will play that stock. When I was a swing trader, I would trade about a 3-day move, and then I would wait for it to pull back whenever that was, and I'd trade the next quick move off of a pullback. And then I was done. And you and I talked about this a couple of days ago. And then I was done with the stock until it consolidated for 4 to 6 weeks. The odds of it continuing on after 2 moves, I just did a bunch of research, and based on my own experience, it just wasn't worth it. So I trade the first move, I trade the second move, and then I'm done until it at least goes sideways for at least 4 to 6 weeks. Now, I do the same thing day trading now. I'm just trading like, I don't know what the stock is, but it explodes and it goes from 50 to 54 and I'm out. I'm totally done with it and I'm back in cash. And then the next day I'm looking for it to go again. And if it does, I'll jump back in for a little bit more. And then I'm done until it consolidates.
The key is you've made that decision because you've defined your time frame. You make those decisions where let's say, forget the doubles because that's not what I'm going for. When you have a cup with handle, double bottom, the statistics say breaking out of that, you could get a 20% move before some sort of sideways correction consolidation.
Right.
So let's say 50, 20%, I'm going for 60. Okay. Did I do the math right? Okay. Yeah. Right. Anyway, whatever. It's a weekend. My brain.
It doesn't matter.
I left my brain on my desk. Anyways. So let's say I'm going from 50 to 60. I'm making a sacrifice that could go to 54, same exact stock, and come back to retest 50. And maybe even never get to 60, but I'm making that sacrifice because I know it's not going to go tick by tick by tick. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. Every second will go up till it hits 60. That's just stupid if you think that. Normal price action might be 54, pull back, 56, pull back, whatever. But my point is I've made my decision and I'm making my sacrifice based on my time frame.
Right. Your time frame's different. Your motives are different. Your personality's different, all that. So we're trading the same stock, we're seeing the same thing, but we have totally different approaches to the exits and how to handle that stock in trend. We're both looking for stocks in trend.
Yes.
We end up probably trading a lot of the exact same names.
That's the common theme. We're starting with a lot of strong, technically and fundamentally sound companies.
And I'm in and out and in and out and in and out and in and out as they set up on the intraday charts as well as on the daily charts. Constantly, and that's how I choose to do my stuff. I'm much happier knowing I'm putting money in my pocket all the time because I got bills to pay, and this is all I do. And so when all of a sudden I get a 7, 8, 10, 12% surge in a stock, gimme, I'm out. I got that's a car payment, that's a mortgage, that's a whatever, and then I'll wait and let it see if it goes again, and if it doesn't, or it just keeps going, so be it.
Yeah, and I appreciate you and your help for helping me answer that. One way I try to answer that, because I do my best to help people, is just take a smaller position and chill out a little bit.
Right.
I think that's the answer. In other words, when anyone ever comes to me and says, "Hey Joe, what do you think of XYZ stock?" I'm like, let me guess, you own it and you're loaded up. And they're like, how'd you know? I'm like, because why else would you fucking ask me about it?
Right.
I'm not going to ask you about a stock I don't own. I'm loaded up. I got weekly calls. I got a huge position. Joe, what do you think? And I could do what they want to hear, is tell them what they want to hear. Oh yeah, I love it. What I'm saying is, you're asking me because you have a huge position, cut it down to a sleep at night position.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, if the 1,000 shares is too much, cut it down to 500 and chill out, or 100 shares is too much, cut it down to 50, because you will have so much more clarity. And I tweeted it out this week that like 90% of the questions I get are all about decision makings and fear and all this stuff. When you can, cut it down to the point where you can control that fear, and you just trade with so much more clarity and confidence.
Where don't you give a shit? I mean, it's like, what size can you trade where if it surges 10%, you're like, yeah, that's pretty good, but I'm really in this for 40% and I want to wait. What is that size point where you just don't give a shit? And I think if you want to stay in a stock for a longer period of time, looking for a bigger return, that's kind of the size that you need to be at. Unfortunately, I like to trade bigger. And so when it starts moving, I start really giving a shit.
Loaded up. You want it to be loaded up. And
I'm trying to maximize that fast, explosive return.
You might have 30, 40, 50% of your account in a short term in a position where, for me, managing money, or even whatever, different tolerance, like I might say, hey, 5 or 10% of it is too much, depending on market cap, of course, and liquidity, of course. But that's where I just tell people, hey, you know what? We all want to make a lot of money quickly, but the whole point of this game is longevity. And you sometimes have to say, I got to relax, because what's the difference if you take 100 shares for 3 points or 50 shares for 6 points? It's the same $300.
Yeah.
To me, you know what the difference is? You can relax with that half-size position.
Or I can relax being in cash for the second half of that move. It all depends on how you want to look at it.
There you
go. Because for me, it's about trade tension. And because, I get, when I threw that tweet out there about being tired.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes to that.
That's a good segue. Let me pull up that tweet so people know.
That's fine.
Let me see. Let's pull it up here and share that tweet. And here's a tweet. Go ahead, because this got a lot of traction. I saw a lot of great comments. So go ahead.
And I got a bunch of DMs kind of, I'll explain some of that shit. But anyway,
were they from women selling you Bitcoin?
No, unfortunately they weren't.
Yeah, you want to ignore those guys. But anyways.
Thanks, buddy. It said I could feel myself hitting the wall with trader fatigue. 6 weeks is typically the outside edge of how long I can go without a clean mental break. If I push it when I'm on fumes like this, I do bad things, like really bad things. Know your limits, people. Okay, so what am I trying to say by this? And I have learned just through history that because of the nature of the way that I trade, and I got some really nifty DMs and some other responses there that are trying to suggest, well, I should trade differently. And it's like, well, guess what, guys? This shit works. The way that I do it works. It fits my personality. I'm doing all right.
Yeah.
Fuck off. But because I carry a lot of tension in my trade sometimes, because I'm oversized, dude, you look like you're like in a cloud of smoke right now.
I smoked weed while I put up your thing, so I'm like hanging out.
They let you do that inside the sanitarium?
All of a sudden, the sun just came in. There we go.
Holy smokes!
The sun just came in through the shades, and I looked like I was hanging out with Snoop Dogg. Okay,
what
that's
kind of padded cell mental institution are you in that's allowing you to smoke weed?
I'm allowed one phone call a day, and I use it for a Zoom call with you. So thank you.
Wow, that's really loving. Thank you. Anyway, I kind of completely forgot my train of thought, but it really
you were talking about
being all cloudy like that.
The tweet. You were talking about when you
do
bad things. Know your limits, people.
Yeah, know your limits, people. Because what happens is I start grinding down, and I can feel it in my head because I'm aggressive with my entries. When I get in, I'm looking for a quick explosion. And my size is pretty, relative to my portfolio is pretty decent. So there's some like angst that I carry to a certain degree. And so I can only hold that so long. But when it moves up a certain amount, it's a decent chunk of change. Yeah. And so if I'm right, I carry it as long as I can. And then it's like, I'm out. And then I wait for it to consolidate again. But every further iteration of that, more often than not, gets smaller and smaller, and then I roll to something else. But
are you saying that intensity exhausts you is kind of what you're saying?
That's my point. The nature of the way that I do it is we only have a finite amount of willpower. We only have a finite amount of stress that we can absorb before it starts to grind us down as traders, because this is about money. And no matter how peaceful you want to become and how zenish you want to be about focusing on process and not focusing on the money, it's about the money, people.
Of course.
That's why we trade, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
And so we can try to get even keeled about that, but at some point it factors in. And so I get tired. You get tired when you're doing this, and, you know, and all of a sudden you're carrying 12 positions. I mean, there's a way you can try and manage it, but with the nature of the way I do, I like the way I do it, because I make a lot of money in short bursts.
Yeah.
But then I'm worn out. And so I've learned how to read the warning signs of what that feels like. And I talked about that a little bit. I answered somebody and they're like, how do you know when you're tired? I'm like, well, when you start dragging ass, getting out of bed, and you're not necessarily that excited about trading, and you're like, basically you're burned out. You have this little mini burnout.
Yeah. For me as a swing trader and a growth manager, breakouts, IBD type of style, I've always said the market's healthy 2 to 3 times a year. When it is healthy, it's a nice, call it, 4 to 6 weeks, 6 to 12 week window, depending if we're coming off a minor correction or a bigger correction. That's my theory. But if you're coming off a deeper correction, you get 6 to 12 weeks. And that's when even the stocks hit a wall, they get extended, the leaders get extended. And then I know exactly, when I read that tweet, I've been trading a long time, where I'm just like, and I think why people liked it and comment is because they can identify. I was like, I know exactly what he was saying, because I was just telling a friend of mine who I trade with, like, I'm getting burned out a little bit here. Yeah. Because you want to hit that sweet spot, but at some point you have to just dial it back a little bit. And so what are ways that when people ask you with that trader fatigue, hopefully people understand what you said and can identify with it. What are ways you deal with that, and what are ways you kind of reconcile that?
Well, I don't have any problem going to cash, first and foremost, no matter how hot the market is. And sometimes what I do is I completely go to cash to find neutral and just like, let everything come down.
Okay.
It may just be for 2 hours. It may be for a couple of days. It just kind of depends on what's going on. But after that, if I'm still fatigued, but I like what I'm seeing, everything gets cut in half or even smaller. And I'm just kind of like, now that I'm day trading, I'm shortening my hours. I'm trading a little bit smaller. I'm trying to, I'm trying to just maintain a certain level of feel for the market without necessarily exploiting an enormous amount of capital at the time, just so that I can regroup. But for the most part, for me, I literally have to check out, and I don't have to check out for a month. I just need like a couple days.
You need some downtime.
Yeah. I just need a couple days of downtime. This 3-day weekend is perfect. And I could see myself possibly not really doing much on Tuesday and just kind of letting it all settle.
Yeah. I think that's smart, because I love the people who are like, oh, I hate long weekends, turn the markets back on. I'm like, just shoot some heroin and calm down, or trade some Bitcoin. These people are junkies. Like when you have a regular job and they give you 2 weeks, let's say vacation, you're excited. And then you're at that job for a couple of years and they give you 3 or 4 weeks. You are so excited when you have that extra vacation. How come as a trader, don't you enjoy a little bit of vacation?
Right.
I mean, you need the doubt. I don't care what you do in life. If you're doing it with intensity and you're going for excellence, which is what I want to lead into that Jordan documentary, because I loved it. But when you're going for excellence, you need downtime. That's why they have spring breaks and school vacations and regular vacations. You need that downtime.
Right. You have to. And I put that out on Wednesday night, and Thursday, funny story. I put that out on Wednesday night, and it's like, I got to really dial back. I can feel it. I'm on fumes. And then Thursday I was like, okay, I'm just going to come in. There's really not a whole lot going on. I'm going to trade a little bit in the morning, see if I can make a little bit. And then I'm shutting it down for the week.
Okay.
And I'm going to have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I'm going to have 4 days off. Awesome. So I come in, like the only thing that's really going is like, we got NVIDIA earnings after the close. And I'm looking at NVIDIA's chart, which looks really extended. And I'm looking at one of its buddies, AMD, who has got a nice little coil to it and whatever. And I'm thinking, you know what, by mid-morning, they're going to, because there's a little bit of a sell pressure on them, they're going to turn around and kind of bounce back up. And I got involved with AMD because I liked its pattern a little bit more, because I felt like NVIDIA was a little too extended. And it just kind of kept driving down on me. And finally I uncled and was down a chunk. Let's just call it a chunk.
Okay.
And I'm like, fuck, this is exactly what I didn't want to do, because I can't stand going out like on a loser. And so I kind of chipped my way back with little bitty trades here and there and some stuff. I don't even remember what I did. And I got to back to where my loss was like, I was only down like $1,500 or whatever, and fine.
Okay.
And all of a sudden it's like close of day, and I'm like, okay. And the only game in town is the NVIDIA earnings. And I'm not supposed to be trading pre-market. However, I didn't say I couldn't trade post-market.
Know your rules and know when to change them.
Yes. And so I'm like, every once in a while, this is kind of fun to play. They swing them up, they swing them down, whatever. And so,
yeah.
So remember, I'm on fumes, people. And so NVIDIA comes out with earnings, they raise their numbers and whatever. And so you're like, well, that's a, beat, raise, that's always good. And it kind of is like spitting up a little bit, and because it'd been weak all day. And I'm over here and I got my hand over here on my keyboard while I'm watching the screen. And I go, you know what? I'm going to grab 200 shares and see if it doesn't want to like rip up through 360. And if I lose $1,000, no big deal. And so I go, 200 shares. And then I just hit the button and I get filled. And then all of a sudden the stock just like air pockets down like 5.5 points.
Okay. Yeah.
And all of a sudden
I remember that.
Yeah. And I see on my screen that I'm down $11,000. And I'm like, oh my God. I fucking fat-fingered and I put 2,000. I bought 2,000 shares instead of 200. I was just looking for a little bit.
Shit.
Yeah. And so it's like, and this is what happens when you're exhausted and you're not paying attention to shit and whatever. And then I just took that loss and.
Oh, sorry to hear.
Yeah, no big deal. Guess what? We're big boys. It's my fault. You got to take responsibility for all that shit. So I own it. It's on me. I probably shouldn't have been trading that day, but I'm not going out on a loss, dude. So I got to work on Friday. And so Friday morning I came in and I fought really hard to be
there's always Bitcoin, my friend. Always Bitcoin.
Oh God, no Bitcoin. And I made a little bit of a chunk back. And so I was like, okay, good enough.
You made some back and closed the weekend
and I'm done.
On a somewhat positive note.
But I ended up red for the week. I ended up losing money because of that one trade. I ended up losing money for the week.
Yeah, and you're saying it's all due to trader fatigue.
Yes. Well, trader fatigue and the fact that, I'm an idiot and didn't bother to
you
send my
do
eyes to the keyboard.
The no look trade,
like what am I, like a Magic Johnson typist or something?
Magic Johnson can do the no look pass. You can't be doing the no look trade.
And for all you guys out there that want to tell me just trade algos or, hey, you should have hotkeys for that. Again, fuck off. I can't stand hotkeys. All right. I'm not doing it. I've been through it. I've tried it all. I do what I do. I do not need your suggestions on how to improve on my stupid mistake. It's just I made a stupid mistake. Leave it at that and reflect on your own shit. All right. That's all I got. There's my story.
We're telling stories because we're, like I said earlier,
we're do stupid shit.
We screw up. I screw up 100 times a week. I just try to keep my mess ups to a minimum because as long as the mistakes are small, you're going to make some big ones once in a while, but you got to keep it to a minimum and just let people know. Yeah, we don't, it's not that, we're not looking for help. We just really don't need suggestions from, like I said, douchebag trader 69 with his Robinhood account on his cell phone, which I know is one of your favorite people to talk about. We'll get into that in a second, but my sports analogy, which is the whole Michael Jordan documentary, The Last Dance.
Yeah. I haven't watched it yet, and I can't wait to see it. And you keep talking about it, and I'm dying to watch it.
I loved it because this is my story where I watch everything. I think of everything in terms of trading. Not because I'm a junkie, because I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with getting better. I've always said people who are successful in anything they do, one common characteristic is they're looking to improve themselves. And I have, you talk about whether it's Kobe Bryant or Carl Icahn, when they talk about excellence, they both use the same word. You got to be a little bit obsessed. Yeah. So I'm watching Jordan and I'm like, I fucking love this. I'm like, this is excellence because
he's into it.
He has a high standard. He has a ridiculous high standard. And as traders, so I was talking about this and I'm like talking about the mental toughness, and a couple of people tweeted at me like, how the hell are you comparing sports to trading? Like, what are you even thinking? And I'm like, if you don't see that, then you don't have a high standard. If you don't see that, then you don't have that mental toughness. Because for me, the way I look at trading is, let's see the S&P averages we'll call it round numbers, 10% a year for the last, whatever, 8 to 10%. Call it 10% a year. The best in the business double that on average. So they're doing 20, sometimes Tepper and people like that are doing more. But the key word is they do that with longevity, with consistency over a career. So the analogy is Michael Jordan, 30 points a game, not just one game, but consistently per game over a 15, 20-year career. So you can understand it's a 50 goal scorer over an 8 or 10 8 or 10 times, not just
unbelievable.
Once. Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
I had to put it in hockey terms so you could understand what I'm talking about.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
Basketball's
the one with the round, the like orange round
it's
ball.
The one you dribble. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
Okay, good. So you crack me up. So just to finish my point is that I am going for that excellence. I am going for that consistency. It doesn't mean I always achieve it. I'd be not telling anyone I'm just going for that. And you know what, in my mind, what that requires, like Jordan's going for a championship. Doesn't mean he's going to win it every time, but that requires mental toughness. It requires some concentration because you're not going to do that spread out, diversified in 500 stocks. It involves a little bit of balls, if I can say that. I know there's some like 1% of the women who are listening, so maybe it involves ovaries.
Is it even 1%? I'm not sure it is.
But my point is it involves having some conviction. It involves having some mental toughness. And when I see that in sports and people are saying, how can you make those analogies? I think that the one main analogy is that mental toughness. You need that to be consistently successful at anything you do, period, end of sentence.
Well, it's the mental toughness because you're going to get the shit kicked out of you, number one, and you got to have the fortitude and the balls to get yourself back up and go right back at it. But number two, it's the constantly trying to get better. And you and I have known each other for a couple of years, and all I've ever known is you're constantly on a quest. How do I get better? How do I get better? How do I improve myself? How do I get better? Just in the last 2 weeks, you and I have had some conversations.
And you've helped me tremendously with that, by the way.
Where you're opening up yourself and saying, here's what's going on. Here's what I'm doing. How would you have handled this different? Just because you're looking for a different perspective to view yourself with, to see if there's something in there that can improve you. I love that about you. But
also from someone with a similar mentality.
Yes.
In other words, Mark Wahlberg says, I don't ask for health advice from a 300-pound guy. I want health and workout advice from someone who's in the same or is better shape than me. So I'm going for trading advice, and I'm humble enough to ask because I know we're on the same level as far as that strive for excellence and that intensity.
Right. And you and I are bouncing stuff back and forth off camera all the time with each other about, because I'm looking at different angles and you're looking at different angles to see if we can tweak each other to make improvements because we want to get better. That's a whole other topic.
Whole other topic.
Yeah.
I mean,
about what it takes.
I just think that the mental toughness involved, if you are striving, hey, if you're in this for 4% a year, whatever, that's fine. Do a 60-40 portfolio depending on your age. I'm not against that. That's what someone might want, who has no risk tolerance and they just want a small grind. Unfortunately, you can't get that in the bank and the local savings bank anymore. So you have to kind of get to dividends, get that. That's fine. But for me, I am going for, unfortunately, people associate superior returns with a lot of risk, which it is a little bit of concentration, but it's controlled risk. In other words, I have stops in place when I'm wrong.
Yeah, and diversification's for pussies. Sorry. I mean, that's just, it's like, but you have to concentrate your portfolio if you want to beat the averages. It's just that simple. There's too much data that's been put out. I've always said,
you want to be average, be in the average.
Right. Buy the index then. If you want to be super diversified, buy the S&P, buy the SPY.
And there's nothing wrong with that
if
you have that personality, but we are wired differently.
Yeah. I'm trying to maximize my return. I'm trying to beat the market and then some by a lot every single year.
Yeah.
Not because actually it has more to do with I'm just trying to generate income off of my capital through the markets. And it's not like I'm sitting on $10 million. So a 10% return is all I need.
If you keep fat fingering trades, you're not going to be.
That's.
I feel
gonna have to work on that.
I feel for that. It happens once every. I think I've
done it a couple of times in my career.
Once or twice in 20 years. Yeah, and the one time you just like, oh, geez. So.
Oh well.
Anyways, at least you recovered.
I did. I had that little recovery, and that's all I need. Just give me a little bit of green, and then I'm okay.
All right.
I
So
got a short memory.
we'll end on a bonus video. Do we want to do a bonus video for the Memorial Day weekend?
Well, yeah,
Maybe,
we're planning on doing a bonus video where, we're already doing free content. So people who get a bonus video usually that means, oh, I get free stuff. Well, you're getting free stuff on top of free stuff.
Okay. Because we didn't pull up any charts or anything, and I think we want to talk. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, what we're planning on doing is we're going to probably either tomorrow or Monday morning, we're going to do a bonus video where we're just talking about the markets, kind of how we see the markets, why we see what we see. We're going to look at a few stocks to make our points and whatever, and maybe shift a little bit off the psychology and the mental toughness and all those different things that we like to talk about, and just kind of dig into the charts. It won't be a very long video, but enough where give you guys some foundation as to sort of how we see things. So as we go forward, you at least have a perspective on sort of the thought process behind why we say some of the shit that we say.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, not only to mix it up and show some charts, but also, yeah, to get away from the psychology, although that's the big part of this. And also, yeah, to give people perspective on, and, state of the markets and what we're looking at, because then they'll have some context as to, your time frame, my time frame, the type of stocks we're looking at. So
it'll be fun.
Yeah,
I look forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. Thank you. Anything else, or are we good for now?
No, I think we're good for now. I smell dinner right now. I don't know who's cooking, but I'm smelling dinner, so I'm starting to get a little bit hungry.
All right. Enjoy your dinner, and we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Look forward to it. See you guys.
Bye.